From Gillette Stadium, I am Alex Barth, joined by Evan Lazar as the Patriots continue to prepare for their season-opening matchup against the Houston Texans. And coming in with the Houston Texans will be DeAndre Hopkins. Some people say he is a top 5 receiver in the league. I think it's hard to debate that. So the task for the Patriots, how do you take away a guy that Bill Belichick called earlier today always kind of open?
Yeah, he is a top 5 receiver in the league. Let's just put that out there right now. I don't think there's any debate about that anymore. Hopkins, the way that he controls his body, the hands, the route running, a spectacular player. So I think the biggest thing is a lot like the pass rush. It's not going to take one person to slow DeAndre Hopkins down. I think they're going to use multiple guys on him. And at practice today and yesterday, they were really working on passing off from cornerback to safety. So I think it looks like we're going to get some bracket coverages, maybe some true cover 4, maybe some cover 3 bail. But for the most part, I think that Hopkins is going to get at least 2 guys on him at most of the time. I think a big thing here for the Patriots is that this Houston Texans team really doesn't have a lot of skill players outside of Hopkins that really scare you. Obviously, Will Fuller is a burner on the outside, but he's more of just a straight line speed guy. He's not someone that's going to really hold down the opposite side and give you tons of problems. So I think that there's going to be a little bit of trouble here for the Texans offense throughout the course of the season of kind of trying to find a second and third option behind Hopkins. And we know how the Patriots do when they're able to take away your number 1 option and you have nobody else really to turn to behind that guy. It's very hard to beat a Belichick coach defense after that.
And if what we're seeing at practice is any indication, Stephon Gilmore should get the brunt of the workload against Hopkins this week. We saw Gilmore come out to a slow start last season before coming on strong in the playoffs. He was hit and miss in the preseason. The game against Carolina gave some reason for pause. But what is the task at hand for Stephon Gilmore? And does he need to be the guy? Sometimes we see the Patriots rotate a couple of corners on the opponent's top receiver to give them different looks. But when it's a guy as elite as Hopkins, is it Gilmore's assignment? Is it going to be Gilmore and Hopkins for at least the majority, the entirety of the game?
I don't think so. I think you are going to get some rotations on there. Eric Rowe might have a chance at him. Whoever they start as the third cornerback, whether it's Jonathan Jones or Duke Dawson, we'll see. I think that they're going to get some run at him too. They like to change it up. Gilmore and Rowe are very similar corners, so I think that that's kind of the same ilk, so to speak. And if you look back at last year, they did shadow a lot towards the end of the season, especially when Gilmore came back. Butler on one side, Gilmore on the other. They did kind of have shadow responsibilities, but I definitely think that this game you're going to see multiple guys on him. I think you're going to see a lot of Deron Harmon and Devin McCourty over the top trying to take away the deep ball and give those corners a little bit of something to sit on the underneath stuff and let them kind of stay in between Hopkins and the quarterback when the safety is taking the deep part of the field. I think that that's kind of going to be the strategy, but I definitely think that Gilmore is going to see the lion's share of snaps.
How about the safeties? You have Jason McCourty, who will be playing his first regular season game at safety. Duke Dawson, you mentioned as a corner, but is listed as a safety on the depth chart, so he could get some time back there. The safeties are crucial, not just against Hopkins, but the Texans as a whole are a down-the-field team. They're going to try to beat the Patriots deep with this. I don't want to say inexperienced safeties group because they do still have Devin McCourty, they do still have Deron Harmon, and they do still have Patrick Chung. But when those guys need a breather, if they lose one of those guys, is it going to be too much for what are really first-year safeties in Duke Dawson and Jason McCourty?
Yeah, I think that the coverage that the Patriots used a lot of the time last year against the Texans, because the Texans don't have a middle-of-a-field threat, they don't really have a tight end or a slot receiver that's really going to give you fits. So they played a lot of really what was cover 4. It looked like cover 2, but it was actually cover 4. They don't play a whole lot of natural cover 2 here. So I think the big thing is going to be they're going to play a lot of 2 deep safeties. So Deron Harmon and Devin McCourty are going to have a lot of responsibilities playing at the same time as those 2 deep safeties, and they're going to leave the middle of the field open and say, Ryan Griffin, go ahead and beat us in the middle of the field. Whoever the Texans uses their third receiver in the slot, go ahead and beat us in the middle of the field. And they're really going to try to keep everything in front of them, including Deshaun Watson.
So the way it always goes with the Patriots, they take away the number 1 option, but that means that somebody that Patriots fans have never heard of is going to burn them up and down the field all afternoon and send them all to Google and Wikipedia and all of that. You mentioned Will Fuller earlier. You mentioned the tight ends. But who's the guy? If they can successfully take away DeAndre Hopkins, who is the guy in this offense that the Patriots need to be worried about most?
Bruce Ellington, the wide receiver who basically beat them last year for a lot of yards. I remember he caught that touchdown pass where Watson threw it to him up the seam in the end zone. It was an incredible catch and throw. I think that he's the guy that you kind of look at as that third fiddle, and I think the Texans are hoping that he's really going to elevate himself this year because they want to run a lot of 11 personnel. They want to spread the field out. But right now, Will Fuller, who is kind of hit or miss depending on if he's hurt or not and, you know, what's going on with him mentally, and DeAndre Hopkins are really the only two guys that they know that they can rely on right now. Ellington, I think, is the third guy that they want to throw into the mix and have, you know, be that third threat on the offense.
Of course, we'll have coverage leading up to and throughout the game. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Patriots CLNS and check us out online at clnsmedia.com. Until the next one, he's Evan Lazar. I'm Alex Barth for CLNS.